ANC reporter Aarti Narsee is at the Western Cape High Court ahead of that judgment. Whether or not his pleas of innocence will see him being acquitted or not, we'll find out later today. Aarti, what's likely to take place? What is Judge Desai likely to judge? How is he going to judge this case, do you think?
Good morning. Well, it all comes down to, has the state proved its case beyond reasonable doubt? And essentially the question that Judge Siraj Desai has to ask is what conclusion a reasonable person would come to. Is it reasonable that a masked intruder got into the Desalza estate unnoticed and was able to attack this family and then leave without leaving any DNA or any trace behind, as Henri Van Breda says? Or is it the state's case then that Henri Van Breda himself acted in a premeditated manner? That is, he thought out this act of obviously committing this crime, and he put a lot of thought and effort into obviously axing his family. And also the state obviously says that it was not an intruder, but it was Henri Van Breda acting on his own, and he also obviously took a lot of time to call the ambulance. So it's all these points, Dan, that point to the fact that Henri Van Breda was the alleged attacker. But obviously, once again, it comes down to what Siraj Desai weighs into the evidence. The other point that Judge Siraj Desai will have to consider is the diagnosis of Henri Van Breda of juvenile epilepsy, and whether it is indeed true that he suffered an epileptic attack on that particular night shortly after his parents were axed. Once again, he'll also have to look at the reliability of Henri Van Breda on the stand. Was he a reliable witness? Were there holes in his story? And should he draw any negative inferences into Henri Van Breda's time on the stand?
Now, I just recall when he was on the stand, despite having been advised earlier by his lawyers not to take the stand, Van Breda took the stand and he seemed to answer every question in a smooth way. He was a picture of smoothness at the time.
And that is despite him claiming that he had a stuttering issue and a speech impediment as a child. However, when we saw him on the stand, most of the time he was quite calm and collected. There were two instances where he got quite emotional, but once again, the other issue or the other question is that Henri Van Breda decided to take the stand after the fact, after the defense had already presented other witnesses, and once again, Judge Siraj Desai will then have to consider how to weigh that evidence in when making his judgment today.
Now, making a judgment today, we don't know how long that statement is going to be. We don't know how long it's going to take, Aarti, and when the final verdict will be announced. But I'm sure there's going to be tension in that courthouse today.
It'll definitely be tense, Radan, and also I think we need to keep a close eye on the accused and how he reacts to what the judge is reading out. And also then the other question is, if Henri Van Breda is found guilty, will his defense team then lodge an appeal possibly? We can never know in court whether obviously a defense might appeal the case. So it may be the end today, but we never know if there may be an appeal lodged later on, and then possibly taking this case even further.
Now, if he's found guilty, if the judge rules that he's guilty, what kind of sentence could he be given?
Well, given that he's facing 3 counts of murder as well as attempted murder for his sister Henri Van Breda, as well as defeating the ends of justice, it is likely that he would get a life sentence. But once again, obviously, that is up to the judge in terms of making that discretion. Also, we'd have to consider the fact that Henri Van Breda is quite young. He willingly gave himself up to the police, and he has all round complied with the court and has been someone who's obviously abided by the orders of the court. So that also will be taken into consideration.
Thank you very much. That's ENC's reporter Aarti Narsee outside the Western Cape High Court ahead of the judgment today by Judge Siraj Desai in the Henri Van Breda XXX murder case.